The city of Zithra sparkled like a jewel under twin suns. Towering buildings of shimmering metal and glass reflected light in every direction, while flying vehicles zipped through the sky in organized patterns. Aliens of every shape and size crowded the streets, their voices blending into a constant hum of conversation, argument, and laughter. Among the chaos, humans were rare. They walked slower than the alien crowd, their gestures smaller, their voices quieter. To most on Zithra, humans were simple and weak, creatures of little consequence. Lyra had never cared what others thought. A brilliant xenobiologist, she had spent years studying alien species, their habits, and their unique biology. She had traveled across star systems, climbing mountains on frozen planets, diving into acidic oceans, and floating in zero-gravity chambers to observe life forms that no human had ever seen before. She had always believed that knowledge was power and curiosity was a gift. But even she had never seen a human quite like Kale. Kale was unlike anyone in the city. He was tall and lean, with sharp, alert eyes that seemed to see everything. But he said almost nothing. In crowded markets, he moved without bumping into anyone. In social gatherings, he lingered at the edges, silent, observing. Some whispered rumors about him. He was a wanderer, a drifter, or worse. A man with a secret past, but Lyra could sense that Kel's silence was not weakness. It was calm, focus, something deeper than words could express. Lyra first met Kale at a research symposium on Zithra's outer colonies. She was presenting a study on the Zithran luminescent flora, plants that could communicate through colors and light pulses. The audience was filled with scholars from across the galaxy, all competing to impress the Alliance Council. Kale appeared at the back of the room, leaning casually against a metal pillar. He did not take notes or ask questions. Instead, he simply watched. His eyes followed every detail: the way Lyra's hands moved, the pulse of the plants, the reactions of the audience. It was not judgment, nor curiosity in the ordinary sense. It was observation, sharp and precise, like a predator studying the air before it strikes. After her presentation, Lyra noticed him again in the crowded hall. Most beings were talking loudly, comparing theories or boasting about achievements. Kale stood alone. Lyra felt a strange pull toward him. He did not smile, did not speak, and yet something about his presence was magnetic. Something told her he was not what he appeared to be. Days passed. Lyra kept seeing Kale around the city, at the docks where starships were repaired, at the markets where rare minerals were traded, even at the floating gardens where Zithrans came to relax. Each time, he was silent, watching, moving with quiet precision. Lyra grew curious, but also cautious. She knew humans were considered weak here, often underestimated, and many aliens treated them with barely disguised disdain. Kale, however, carried himself as if the universe itself were small in comparison. Finally, their paths crossed in a more personal setting. Lyra was walking through the city's old district, a place of cobblestone streets and ancient towers that had survived Zithra's technological revolution. Vendors shouted in alien tongues, offering exotic foods and rare trinkets. Children played with hovering toys that defied gravity. Lyra had stopped at a small shop to examine a rare crystal when she heard a calm voice behind her. "You shouldn't touch that," Lyra turned. Kale stood there, tall and silent until that moment, his gaze fixed on the crystal. It was not a warning, not a command. It was a simple statement, calm and precise. She frowned. "Why not?" she asked. He did not answer immediately. Instead, he pointed subtly at a small crack in the crystal's base. "It could break," he said finally, his voice quiet but firm. "And it would be dangerous." Lyra was surprised. Most humans she had met were clumsy, careless even. Kel's words carried authority, a quiet certainty that made her pause. She studied him, noticing for the first time the small details, the way his fingers hovered just above the crystal. Without touching it, the steady calm in his stance, the alertness in his eyes. He was like a living shadow, observing everything but giving away nothing. From that day forward, Lyra and Kale began to meet more often. He accompanied her on short trips to research sites, never speaking unless necessary, yet always watching, always analyzing. He seemed to notice things others missed, the subtle vibrations in a crystal, the almost imperceptible change in air pressure before a storm, the way alien technology had tiny flaws no one else could detect. Despite, or perhaps because of his silence, Lara found herself drawn to him. There was a strange comfort in his calm presence. Where other humans and aliens alike were loud and restless, Kale was steady, unshaken. He never sought attention, never demanded respect, and yet he commanded it without effort, of course. Not everyone approved. Friends and colleagues whispered when they saw Lyra with him. A human? That quiet one, they said. Do you know anything about him? Aliens scoffed openly, unable to understand why someone would marry a human, much less a silent one. Rumors spread. Some claimed Kale had been a soldier, others said he was an outlaw. Lyra ignored the gossip. She trusted her instincts. She had seen something in him others could not, something strong, rare, and unbreakable. The wedding was small and private, held on a balcony overlooking Zithra's glowing skyline. Few aliens attended. Lyra's friends worried, whispering doubts, but she smiled through them. Kale stood beside her, silent as ever. Yet his presence radiated a quiet confidence that calmed everyone around him. When the officiant asked for his vows, Kale simply placed a hand on Lyra's and nodded. That small gesture spoke louder than words ever could. Lyra knew, without a doubt, that she had married someone extraordinary. Life settled into a quiet rhythm. Lyra continued her research, and Kale accompanied her, always observing, always ready. He did not speak much, but when he did, it was with precision and clarity. And every day, Lyra noticed little things, how he anticipated trouble before it arrived, how he moved with purpose in crowded markets, how he seemed to understand creatures and machines alike in ways that defied logic. One evening, as the twin suns dipped below Zithra's horizon, casting the city in shades of pink and gold, Lyra looked at Kale with a mix of admiration and curiosity. He stood silently beside her, watching the city, his eyes reflecting the glowing lights. You are different, she said softly. Kale turned his head slightly, meeting her gaze. For the first time in months, he spoke more than a few words. Different is not always visible, he said. Sometimes strength hides in silence. Lyra smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. She did not yet know the full measure of his strength. She did not yet know the secrets Kale carried, the skills he had mastered in solitude, the dangers he had faced long before Zithra. But she sensed that one day, the world would see what she had already discovered, that humans, quiet and underestimated, were capable of far more than anyone imagined, and she would be there, standing beside him, when that moment came. Little did Lyra know, that moment would come sooner than anyone expected. Life in Zithra continued at its usual hurried pace, but Lyra noticed a subtle change in the way people looked at her and Kale. Some gave curious glances. Others whispered behind their hands. The whispers were about Kale, of course, the quiet human who seemed to belong nowhere yet everywhere. Despite the gossip, Lyra felt more certain each day that she had married a man unlike any other. There was a calm power about him that no alien or human could ignore. It was during a routine research trip that Lyra first truly realized just how extraordinary Kale was. The Zithran luminal forest, located on the northern edge of the planet, was her favorite sight. Its glowing flora responded to touch, light, and sound, creating a symphony of colors that could reveal the health and mood of the ecosystem. Lyra had come to study the interaction between these plants and the local alien wildlife. Kale, as always, accompanied her, moving silently among the trees, observing Dot at first. Kale said nothing. He simply followed, crouching when necessary, bending to examine a flower without disturbing it, his eyes scanning every detail. Lyra spoke softly, explaining her work, but Kale listened quietly, nodding occasionally. She had grown used to this silence, yet it never ceased to fascinate her. There was intelligence in it, patience, and a rare understanding of the world that words could not capture. When they reached a clearing, Lyra noticed something unusual. A small creature, no bigger than a rabbit, with translucent skin, was trapped under a fallen branch. Its limbs flailed helplessly, and its glow began to fade as a sign of fear or injury. Lyra instinctively moved to help, but Kale was faster. He bent, lifted the branch with ease, and placed the creature on his hand. His fingers moved with careful precision, avoiding injury, while his eyes never left the creature. It glowed brighter, pulsing as if recognizing the human as a protector. Lyra stared, realizing that Kel's quiet presence was more than observation, it was connection. He understood life in a way most aliens could not, combining instinct, patience, and an almost supernatural awareness. "This is amazing," she whispered. "How do you know what to do?" Kel's gaze met hers. "I watch, I learn. I act only when necessary," he said simply. It was the kind of answer that made sense and yet explained nothing. Lyra felt a thrill of admiration. She had studied countless species, yet here was a human who seemed to understand them intuitively. Without books, without experiments, without explanation, days later, their lives would take a sudden and dangerous turn. Lyra had been invited to a diplomatic gathering organized by the Galactic Alliance, a prestigious assembly of species across the known galaxies. She was to present a report on Zithra's ecosystems, but Kale insisted on accompanying her. At first, Lyra hesitated. Public gatherings were dangerous for humans, but Kel's insistence was firm, unyielding. He wanted to see for himself, he said. The Alliance Hall was vast, a soaring structure of crystal and metal that stretched into the sky. Delegates from dozens of planets mingled in the corridors, speaking in languages Lyra had never heard, exchanging data pads, and negotiating treaties. Aliens moved with elegance, their gestures sharp and deliberate. Humans, by contrast, often appeared clumsy or hesitant. Many whispered as Lyra and Kale passed, some snickering openly at the idea of a silent human walking beside an accomplished xenobiologist. Lyra ignored them, focusing on her work, but she noticed the subtle changes in Kale. His eyes scanned the crowd constantly, tracking every movement. He noted exits, potential dangers, and even the stance of delegates as they spoke to each other. Lyra realized that Kel's silence was more than a habitat, was a form of vigilance. He was always aware, always prepared. As the event began, Lyra took the stage to present her research. The room was filled with alien species of every shape and size, some with dozens of eyes, some with glowing appendages, some whose voices could shatter glass. She spoke clearly, showing the data on Zithra's luminescent flora, explaining how they interacted with the planet's wildlife, and how their unique biology could help other worlds in need of ecological restoration. Most delegates listened politely, but Kel's attention was unwavering. He did not take notes, nor did he react to the applause or murmurs. He simply observed the way the speakers moved, the way their devices worked, the way the crowd responded. It was a study of motion, energy, and intent all in one. Lyra felt a strange reassurance knowing he was there beside her. The gathering, however, did not go as expected. Without warning, alarms blared throughout the hall. The ceiling panels shifted, and doors locked automatically. Lyra froze as masked figures began to appear from hidden compartments. They were armed and aggressive pirates, Lyra realized instantly. Their goal was clear: disrupt the meeting, seize delegates, and steal sensitive information. Chaos erupted. Aliens screamed, some tried to fight back, but most fled. Lyra's heart raced. She had never seen anything like this. The hall, once filled with dignity and polite conversation, had become a battlefield. But Kale remained calm. Unmoving at first, he scanned the attackers, noting their movements, predicting their actions. "Stay behind me," he said quietly to Lyra. Before she could respond, Kale sprang into action. His movements were swift, precise, and unlike anything Lyra had ever witnessed. He dodged attacks with ease, deflected blows, and moved through the crowd without harming anyone. Every step, every motion, seemed perfectly calculated. The pirates, despite their advanced weapons, could not anticipate him. Lyra realized, with a mix of fear and awe, that Kale was no ordinary human. He protected her and other delegates, moving like a shadow among the chaos. His silent nature made him unpredictable, and his instincts were flawless. In moments that felt like ours, the attackers were disarmed, restrained, or fleeing in confusion. The room fell silent again, save for the heavy breathing of those who survived. Lyra stared at him, heart pounding. "Cale, how?" He looked at her, calm as ever, his hand brushing a fallen datapad toward her. "Some things," he said, "cannot be taught. They must be understood and mastered." That night, as the city of Zithra glowed beneath twin moons, Lyra and Cale returned home. She could not stop thinking about what she had witnessed. Cale's strength, precision, and awareness had saved countless lives. Aliens who had once laughed at humans would now think twice before underestimating them. And Lyra knew, deep in her heart, that this was only the beginning. Over the next few days, the aftermath of the attack dominated the news. Alliance officials praised the mysterious human who had protected the delegates, though few details were released. Whispers and rumors spread throughout Zithra. The silent human. "He is dangerous," some said. "Or he is more than human," others speculated. Lyra remained quiet. She had no doubts. She knew Cale was extraordinary not because of the rumors, but because she had seen it with her own eyes. Cale, however, did not boast. He returned to his usual routine, observing, analyzing, and acting only when necessary. Lyra realized that his power was not in strength or violence alone, it was in awareness, patience, and the ability to see what others could not. He was human, yes, but he was also something more, a force of balance in a chaotic world. That evening, Lyra found him on their balcony, staring at the stars. "You saved so many lives today," she said softly. Cale turned to her, his eyes reflecting the moonlight. "I did what was necessary," he replied. "Strength is not for show. It is for action when it is needed most." Lyra felt a shiver of admiration. She knew that many would never understand Cale, and many would continue to underestimate humans. But she also knew that the galaxy was changing. Humans, often dismissed as weak or simple, were capable of greatness that no one could predict. And standing beside Cale, she felt as if she were witnessing the start of something extraordinary. Little did she know, the true test of Cale's abilities and the real danger was still ahead. The attack at the Alliance Hall had been only a warning. Forces far greater and more dangerous were already moving in the shadows, preparing to challenge the silent human who had drawn his sword for the first time. Lyra did not sleep that night. She watched Cale as he remained silent, alert, and vigilant. She could sense the depth of his power, the years of training and discipline hidden behind calm eyes and quiet gestures. And she knew, without doubt, that the moment when the galaxy would truly see Cale and the strength of humanity was approaching faster than anyone could imagine. The calm of Zithra's night was deceptive. From the safety of their home, Lyra could see the city's lights flicker and dance under the twin moons. She had hoped that the attack at the Alliance Hall was an isolated event, but Cale's quiet vigilance told her otherwise. He stood at the balcony, scanning the city with sharp, unwavering eyes, as though he could see threats invisible to anyone else. "You're not worried?" she asked softly. Approaching him, Cale did not turn immediately. His eyes followed a faint movement in the distance, a shadow sliding across a building ledge, silent, purposeful. "I am aware," he said finally. "Worry does not prepare you for what comes. Observation does." Lyra nodded, a shiver running down her spine. She had seen Cale in action before, but she had never fully understood the depth of his abilities. That night, however, she would witness it again, and in a way that would change everything. The warning came in the form of an urgent, high-pitched signal from the Alliance. Cale moved faster than she could see, his long legs carrying him with quiet precision. Lyra grabbed his arm. "Wait, where are we going?" He glanced at her, calm, almost gentle. "To the threat," he said. "We cannot wait for it to reach us within minutes." They were aboard a sleek Alliance transport, cutting across the night sky toward the outer docking station on Zithra's edge. Reports had come in of armed intruders, pirates again, but this time more organized, more dangerous. They had seized a small fleet of freighters, holding alien civilians and technicians as hostages. The moment they arrived, chaos was visible from orbit. Small explosions rocked the dock, and fire flared from damaged ships. Lyra could see alien figures darting across the platforms, some armed, some fleeing. Panic had spread like wildfire. Kel's expression remained calm, unreadable. Lyra realized that his silence was not absence, it was focus. He stepped to the edge of the transport, scanning the dock with precise calculation. Noting escape routes, attacker positions, and civilian locations, without warning, he jumped. Lyra's heart leapt in terror, but she could not see any fear or hesitation in him. He landed lightly among the attackers, a human figure alone against dozens of armed aliens. Time seemed to slow. Kel's hand moved to his side, and for the first time, he drew the sword. It was not an ordinary weapon. The blade shimmered with a faint blue energy, humming quietly as it extended fully. Its surface was sleek, almost alive, reflecting the flames and lights around him. Lyra had never seen such a weapon. It was an ancient human relic, long thought lost, capable of cutting through the strongest alloys and deflecting energy blasts. The attackers froze, astonished. They had expected a human to be weak, clumsy, or easily defeated. Instead, they saw Cal, silent and still, holding a sword that seemed to hum with power. And then he moved. It was a blur. Kel's first strike was swift and precise, knocking a weapon from a pirate's hand without even touching the attacker's body. He moved fluidly, a perfect combination of speed, balance, and control. Each motion had purpose. Each strike, block, and step was executed with exact precision. Lyra watched, heart pounding. As Cal advanced, he did not attack indiscriminately. He focused only on the threats that endangered civilians. Disarming and neutralizing without unnecessary harm, his sword seemed to guide him. Responding almost instinctively to the movement of his opponents, the pirates, confident in their weapons and numbers, found themselves outmatched by a single human, one who moved like a shadow, faster than the eye could follow. The alien onlookers were stunned. Some froze in disbelief, others whispered to one another, "He is human, impossible." The concept of a human defeating trained pirates effortlessly seemed absurd. Yet here he was, calm, deliberate, unstoppable. One pirate tried to strike Cal from behind, aiming for a quick and silent attack. Cal's eyes never left the group in front of him, yet, as if anticipating the move, he shifted, spinning on his heel with perfect timing. The pirate's weapon clanged harmlessly against a nearby post as Cal struck in one fluid motion, knocking him unconscious. Lyra felt a mixture of awe and fear. She had married Cal, yes, but she had never fully realized the depth of his power. It was not just physical skill. It was instinct, observation, strategy, and calm determination all combined. Humans, long considered weak, were capable of far more than most species imagined. As Cal moved deeper into the docking station, he created a path for civilians to escape. Aliens who had mocked humans now hesitated to approach him. Their technology, weapons, and strength, all of it seemed almost irrelevant against a human who could anticipate and counter every move. One particularly dangerous attacker, a large alien, wielding a plasma staff, charged Cal with terrifying speed. Lyra froze, expecting disaster. But Cal remained composed. He stepped aside, letting the attacker overextend. With a precise flick of his sword, he disarmed the alien, sending the staff clattering across the floor. The alien lunged again, but Cal met each move with flawless timing, never harming more than necessary, yet neutralizing the threat completely. Lyra realized the truth. Cal was not only fighting to protect others, he was teaching a lesson. Humans, underestimated for generations, were capable of mastering skills and strategies no other species had imagined. Cal's strength was not in raw power alone. It was in understanding, predicting, and adapting. It was human excellence at its finest. Finally, after what seemed like hours but was only minutes, the attackers were either unconscious, fleeing, or captured. The docking station was quiet again. Save for the crackle of small fires and the murmur of relieved civilians, Lyra ran to Cal, tears of relief filling her eyes. You saved them," she whispered. Cal's face remained calm. He did not smile. He simply nodded. "I did what was necessary," he said. His voice was quiet, but it carried the weight of certainty. Strength is not for show. It is for action when it matters most. Lyra looked at him, trying to comprehend what she had just witnessed. She had married a human who could do what no alien could imagine, who could move faster than the eye could track, and who remained calm even in the most dangerous situations. He was not only extraordinary, he was a symbol of something much greater. The media, of course, soon arrived, cameras flashing, recording every detail. Aliens whispered and speculated. A human? One official said, "He is more than human." Others shook their heads in disbelief. Lyra ignored the noise. She only cared about Kale, who had returned his sword to its sheath and now stood silently beside her. That night, as they watched the stars from their home, Lyra felt a mix of pride and understanding. Kale's silence had never been emptiness. It was calm, focus, and awareness. His strength had always been hidden, patiently waiting for the moment it would matter most. And that moment, she realized, was only the beginning. Kale, standing silently beside her, did not speak of his skills or the battles he had fought. He did not boast or celebrate, but Lyra could see the depth of his experience, the years of discipline and training that made him who he was. And she knew that the galaxy would never underestimate humans again, not if Kale remained among them. The attack at the docking station was a warning. There were larger threats in the universe, more dangerous enemies who underestimated humans at their peril. Lyra understood that Kel's abilities were not just for defense, they were a promise that humans, often dismissed as weak, were capable of greatness when needed. And she would stand beside him, ready to witness, support, and protect as he revealed what it truly meant to be human, silent, observant, and more powerful than anyone could imagine. Little did they know, the enemies they had faced were only scouts. Forces far more organized and dangerous were moving through the shadows of the galaxy, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Kel's sword, once drawn, had changed everything. And now, the universe would have to reckon with the strength of a silent human who acted when it mattered most. The calm that followed the docking station incident was temporary. Lyra knew it, even though the pirates had been defeated. Kel's silence and the rumors about his extraordinary abilities had sent ripples throughout Zithra and the wider galaxy. Aliens who had once ignored humans now glanced at them with a mixture of curiosity and fear. Some whispered that humans were capable of hidden powers, that their quiet nature masked a strength no one could understand. Lyra, of course, had never doubted it. She had seen it with her own eyes. One evening, as twin moons rose over the city, Lyra confronted Kale on their balcony. The sky glowed with the light of distant stars and the faint shimmer of the city below. "Kale, you have to tell me," she said softly, her voice steady but urgent. "Who are you, really? How can one human be capable of all that?" Kale's eyes met hers. For a moment, he seemed to hesitate, as though weighing what to reveal. Then, in his calm, measured voice, he began. "You are ready to understand," he said. "Humans were not always considered weak. Long ago, our species faced countless dangers. We were underestimated, yes, but we survived because we adapted. We studied, we trained, and we learned to master skills that others could not." Lyra listened intently, captivated. She had always known humans were resourceful, but Kel's words hinted at something far greater than she had imagined. "I am part of a hidden order," Kale continued, "a lineage that has preserved the best of human ability. Combat, strategy, observation, adaptability, these are not taught in schools or universities. They are mastered in silence, through discipline, practice, and understanding of the world. My training began long before I ever reached Zithra. I was taught to protect the weak, to act decisively, and to defend balance across the galaxy." Lyra's breath caught. She had suspected Kel's past was unusual, but she had never guessed it was tied to such a legacy. "All this hidden?" she asked. "All the humans we see, they didn't know?" Kale nodded. "Most humans are unaware of this legacy. Only a few are chosen, trained, and prepared to act when necessary. The rest contribute in their own ways, quietly, through ingenuity, creativity, and courage. But when threats arise that cannot be solved by diplomacy or technology, the trained ones intervene." Lyra reached for his hand, feeling a mix of awe and relief. So, all this time, you were preparing for moments like the docking station attack? Kel's gaze softened slightly. Yes, and there will be more. The words sent a shiver down Lyra's spine. She understood now that Kel's calm demeanor, his silent observation, and his deadly skill with the sword were not accidents. They were the result of generations of careful training, designed to prepare humans for a universe that underestimated them at every turn. In the days that followed, Kale shared more of his story with Lyra. He spoke of human colonies that had thrived on harsh, unwelcoming worlds, of humans who had mastered survival, strategy, and leadership under impossible circumstances. He spoke of the Hidden Order's mission to protect weaker species, prevent domination by tyrants, and maintain balance in the galaxy. And most importantly, he spoke of humans' potential, a potential that few aliens recognized, yet one that could change the course of entire civilizations. Lyra realized that the docking station incident had been only the beginning. Kel's skills, though impressive, were just the surface. The depth of human capability was staggering. Aliens who had mocked or dismissed humans would soon learn that they had underestimated an entire species. Their quiet evenings together began to take on a new meaning. While Lyra continued her research, Kale trained in secret, refining his already extraordinary abilities. He practiced movements that were invisible to the untrained eye, honed his perception of energy and motion, and studied alien combat techniques with meticulous care. Lyra observed, fascinated, as he transformed even ordinary gestures into something extraordinary, proof that the human mind and body could achieve remarkable harmony when pushed to its limits. One afternoon, as Lyra studied luminescent flora near the outskirts of the city, she noticed Kel's attention focused on something beyond the plants. A group of alien mercenaries had appeared, moving stealthily through the terrain. Unaware that Kale had already observed their patterns, calculated their numbers, and anticipated their strategies, without warning, Kale acted. He moved like a shadow, silent and swift, intercepting the mercenaries before they could reach the scientists and civilians nearby. He disarmed them with precision, incapacitating them without unnecessary force. Lyra's heart pounded, not from fear but from awe. Every movement, every strike, every decision was deliberate. This was human potential realized, beyond what she had ever imagined. After the encounter, Kale explained the lesson quietly. Humans survive not because we are the strongest, but because we can see the path others overlook. We adapt, predict, and act with purpose. That is our advantage. Lyra nodded, understanding fully. Humans were underestimated because their strength was subtle, internal, and often invisible until revealed in critical moments. Kale had shown her that strength was not always loud or obvious. It was awareness, patience, and the ability to act decisively when it mattered most. As weeks passed, the galaxy began to take notice. Reports of Kel's actions spread quietly among the Alliance and various planetary leaders. Some began to view humans with newfound respect, while others remained skeptical. But one thing was clear: the age of underestimating humanity was coming to an end. Lyra and Kale became partners not just in life, but in purpose. She used her knowledge to assist him in identifying threats and understanding alien technologies. He, in turn, shared what he could of human strategy and training, preparing her for challenges they might face together. Their bond grew stronger, built on mutual respect, trust, and shared responsibility. One evening, as they watched the glow of Zithra's city lights from their balcony, Lyra spoke softly. "I think I finally understand, Kale. Humans, we are stronger than anyone believes, not because of weapons or numbers, but because of what we can do when it counts." Kale looked at her, his eyes calm yet intense. "Yes, and one day, the galaxy will see it too. But until then, we act quietly, decisively, and without recognition. That is our strength." Lyra smiled, feeling a deep sense of purpose. She had always known humans were remarkable, but seeing Kale embody that potential had changed everything. She realized that the true power of humanity lay not in dominance or aggression, but in creativity, adaptability, courage. and the ability to rise to any challenge even when underestimated. Their peace was, however, only temporary. While they trained, observed, and prepared, larger forces moved unseen across the galaxy. Rogue factions, mercenary groups, and corrupt leaders had heard whispers of the silent human and the hidden human order. They underestimated humans still, believing Kale to be an anomaly, a single remarkable individual rather than a symbol of humanity's potential. But Kale and Lyra knew the truth. Humanity's rise was only beginning, and when the galaxy finally faced a threat it could not ignore, it would be humans quiet, clever, and unyielding who would show the universe what it meant to be underestimated at one's peril. Lyra placed her hand gently on Kel's arm. "Whatever comes next," she said softly, "we face it together." Kel's gaze swept across the horizon. Calm and resolute. Together, he agreed. And in that moment, Lyra knew that the hidden legacy of humanity, its strength, resilience, and brilliance was alive, growing, and ready to change everything for the first time. She felt the full weight of the promise Kale represented, that humans, long overlooked, were capable of shaping the destiny of the galaxy itself. And she would be there, standing beside him, ready to see the true power of humanity revealed to all. The galaxy had grown restless. News of Kel's actions on Zithra spread quietly, then more openly, reaching worlds far beyond the Alliance. Whispers of the silent human sparked fear, curiosity, and envy among alien leaders. Many dismissed it as a wartime anomaly, but others began to prepare. The universe had underestimated humans for too long, and now, some intended to test that claim with force. Kale and Lyra knew the peace they had enjoyed was only temporary. Reports had arrived of a fleet of alien warships amassing in the outer sectors, led by the ruthless Commander Virek, a strategist known for crushing weaker civilizations without mercy. Virek had heard rumors of Kale, of humans who could act beyond expectation, and he saw a challenge a species he believed he could subdue easily. Lyra and Kale stood together on the balcony of their home, overlooking Zithra's glowing city. "Do you think we can stop them?" Lyra asked softly. She had faced danger before, but the scale of this threat felt overwhelming. Kale's eyes scanned the horizon, calm yet focused. "We do not stop them with fear," he said. "We stop them with strategy, courage, and unity. Humans are underestimated because they act when others hesitate. That will be our advantage." The Alliance agreed to coordinated defense, but it was clear they were relying on Kale. He would lead the human contingent, but more importantly, he would show the galaxy what humans were truly capable of. Lyra joined him, using her knowledge to coordinate defenses and manage communications across multiple planets. Together, they prepared for the battle that would decide the fate of many worlds. As the fleet of warships appeared on Zithra's horizon, the enormity of the threat became clear. Hundreds of ships, bristling with weapons, moved in perfect formation. Aliens trembled, certain that this was the end of weaker species including humans. But Kale remained calm. He surveyed the battlefield, noting weaknesses, potential strategies, and unconventional tactics. Every human and allied ship would be placed where it could maximize effectiveness. Even if outnumbered, the battle began with a thunderous roar. Energy beams lit the sky, explosions shook the docking bays, and ships collided in chaotic bursts of light. Most alien commanders expected humans to panic, to flee, to surrender. Instead, they witnessed something unprecedented. Kale moved among the human ships as if he were part of the fleet itself. His guidance, both silent and precise, allowed humans to anticipate attacks, evade devastating strikes, and counter with ingenuity. Lyra watched in awe as humans once underestimated performed daring maneuvers that no alien fleet had predicted. One group of humans used magnetic fields to redirect enemy projectiles, while another exploited weaknesses in the enemy's shields discovered by careful observation and quick thinking. Kel's sword, symbolic though it was, became a rallying point. Stories spread through the human fleet, the silent warrior who acted decisively, protecting life and turning the tide when hope seemed lost. His calm, focused presence inspired courage in humans and respect even fear in their alien allies and enemies alike. The turning point came when Virec's flagship launched a direct attack on the main human station. Alien commanders expected chaos. Instead, Kale acted, moving faster than anyone could follow. He boarded the flagship with a small contingent of elite humans. His sword cut through barriers, disabling weapons without harming prisoners. His strategy was flawless. He neutralized the command crew while leaving the ship intact, demonstrating precision, restraint, and brilliance. From the main station, Lyra coordinated with Kale, guiding reinforcements and ensuring civilians were safe. Together, they orchestrated an unprecedented human response, not just a defense, but a demonstration of ingenuity, adaptability, and courage. Aliens who had once mocked humans now watched in disbelief as a single species changed the course of the battle through intelligence, teamwork, and courage. Virek, enraged, attempted a desperate assault with his remaining forces, but humans anticipated his moves, using strategy and observation to counter every attack. Kel's calm presence, even in the heat of battle, allowed humans to adapt faster than any alien fleet had ever experienced. Lyra realized that human strength was not just physical, it was mental, creative, and collaborative. They could improvise, predict, and innovate in ways that no other species had mastered. Hours passed. The battle raged across space, but slowly, the tide turned. Virek's fleet faltered under the coordinated human response. Ships once considered weak now performed daring maneuvers that outsmarted their opponents. Each human action was deliberate, precise, and effective. The aliens who had underestimated them began to retreat, finally. The warships that had threatened Zithra were either destroyed, captured, or forced to flee. Silence returned to the battlefield, broken only by the cheers of humans and the stunned murmurs of alien observers. Kale stood at the forefront, his sword sheathed, calm as ever, but his eyes reflecting the intensity of the fight he had just commanded. Lyra rushed to his side, embracing him. You did it. We did it," she exclaimed, tears of relief and joy filling her eyes. Kel's voice was quiet, steady. "We acted as we must. Strength is not in fear or aggression. It is in action, precision, and courage. Humanity has shown its true power today. The galaxy began to change that day. Humans, long underestimated, were now recognized not as weak or simple, but as capable of brilliance, courage, and strategy beyond any expectation. Other species began to approach humans with respect, seeking alliances rather than underestimating them. Lyra watched the celebrations, feeling pride not only for Kale but for all humans. They had shown that their greatest strength lay not in weapons or numbers, but in their minds, hearts, and courage. A species that had once been dismissed was now respected across star systems. Kale, standing beside her, reflected the same calm intensity he had shown through every challenge. "This is only the beginning," he said. "Humans will continue to grow, adapt, and excel. The galaxy must learn that underestimating humanity is dangerous." Lyra nodded. She understood now that the silent human she had married was not only extraordinary individually, but a symbol of her species' potential. Through observation, patience, courage, and cleverness, humans could achieve what others could not. Kel's actions had changed perceptions, inspired respect, and perhaps even altered the fate of the galaxy. In the weeks that followed, humans across various colonies began to take active roles in diplomacy, defense, and innovation. Kale trained others in observation, strategy, and adaptability, showing them that true strength lay in calm focus, careful planning, and decisive action. Lyra worked alongside him, guiding research and strategy, her knowledge of alien biology and ecosystems complementing Kel's training. The universe watched as humanity rose not through conquest or aggression, but through excellence, courage, and ingenuity. Kel's example inspired countless humans to step forward, proving that even a silent, underestimated species could change the course of history. One evening, after the celebrations had ended and Zithra returned to its peaceful glow, Lyra stood beside Kale on their balcony. The stars shone brightly above, distant suns twinkling in the vastness of space. "You've changed everything," she said softly. Kale looked at her, calm as ever. "No," he replied. Humanity changed everything. I only acted when it mattered. Others followed. That is the power of our species' adaptability, courage, and action at the right moment. Lyra smiled, understanding fully now. Humans had risen from underestimated observers to decisive actors. The galaxy had witnessed their strength, and nothing would ever be the same again. Kel's sword, once drawn in a single moment of necessity, had become a symbol of human potential, silent, precise, and unyielding. And standing beside him, Lyra felt a profound sense of pride. Together, they had shown that humans were more than capable. They were brilliant, resilient, and ready to face any challenge the universe might send their way. As the twin moons of Zithra reflected on the calm waters of the city, Lyra and Kale knew one truth. Humanity had arrived, not through noise or power alone, but through action, intelligence, and courage. And the universe would never forget it. The silent human had drawn his sword, and everything had changed.